Hey there, this is Greg from Stonecrop Farm. Today we are going to talk about how to prepare, season, and truss bone-in loin roast. So like a standing rib roast. We're going to be working from a recipe in Judy Rogers' cookbook, Zuni Cafe cookbook. It's a fantastic book and a fantastic recipe for a delicious cut of meat. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to start with a rib roast here. This is a smaller one. It's about 2 pounds. Most of our rib roasts are in like a 3.5 to 4.5 pound range. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to separate these ribs slightly, just at the bone right here. Essentially, these ribs connect up into the spine, and you want to just take a sharper chef's knife, and sometimes you need to use the butt of your hand or a mallet. This one was cut pretty close down, so we really don't have to do much, but you just kind of give it a little bit of a tap. You don't want to go too deep into the meat there, but you want to make it so that you can get through those bones later on after the roast is cooked. Because the way it's going to work, see, I went a little bit deeper than I wanted to on this one here. But yeah, so basically you want to make sure that you can, eventually we're going to cut, after it's cooked, slice between the ribs so you get slices of the roast. But if this bone is still solid all the way through, you won't really be able to cut through. So now that we've done that part, the next step is going to be to essentially separate the ribs from the rest of the meat. And to do that, we're going to use a paring knife, and we're basically just going to take this knife and we're going to guide it down the ribs. Just like this. You can also use a boning knife. It's a little bit easier actually that way. Just because you have a longer blade. The chef's knife is a little bit too cumbersome, I think, to do this, but you could certainly do that. Yeah, you can see how we're basically slicing our way down, just kind of following the contour of these ribs itself. Keep going. Apparently my knife is not as sharp as I thought it was. That's okay. Never stopped anyone. And now we're just about there. So we don't want to cut all the way through and separate the ribs out. What we're really trying to do is get it just about to this point. So we kind of have like a book. And so basically what we're going to do next is we're going to take our salt, and you can check our recipe to actually get the exact numbers. And then we're going to just season all over inside that cavity. I'm going to season that part, and all over there. We're going to season all over here. We're gonna get a little bit of salt on the ends. I personally like to get a little extra salt on the fat if I have more left over when I'm ready about done. And then throwing a little more on the inside never hurts anything either. And like I said, the measurements for the quantity of salt are all going to be on the recipe on our website. And it's based on the weight of the roast. So next, we have some crushed garlic. We put this through a little garlic press. You could just mince it by hand if you want, or you could chop it and then crush it in a mortar and pestle. But basically, this is all going to go right on the inside of this pocket. You basically just want to smear it. Easier to do it along the ribs just because they kind of hold their form a little bit better. So you can smear it there. All right, so we've got that in there. All right, and then next, we're going to take our mixture of coriander and cumin seed, and we're going to get a little bit of that inside the pocket inside of the roast itself. And that's going to be really delicious later when that kind of settles in and the flavors really work into the meat. And then we're going to just spread the rest of it kind of all over on the outside, just the way we did with the salt. Don't forget about the ends. Oops. So we're not perfectionists here, as long as it tastes good in the end. All right, so now we have our roast. We have seasoned with salt and other flavorings, both inside the pocket and all around. And then the next step is going to be to actually truss the roast. So, rinse my hands. And what we're going to do is we're going to take butcher twine. I don't do anything really special with these knots. Just try to make it as simple as possible. And the way we truss it is we're just going to run a string. Basically, it's to keep the pocket closed, essentially. So basically, you want to run it between the ribs. So you can see that point right there. Those are the ribs at the top. And to do this the easiest way, get it fairly tight. I just do a basic square knot because, like I said, we're not trying to be extra fancy here. Let's pull another piece. It's easiest to do basically every other rib. So we have one rib, we're going to skip this opening and move right onto this one. Got that one done. And then we should be good with one more piece of twine. Last spot between these two ribs. All right, and now that's going to hold this flap together when it's standing in the fridge. Basically, we're going to take our roast. I'll probably put it on a different tray or a different container. We're going to leave it loosely covered in the fridge for a few days until we are ready to actually roast it. All right, so we now have our trussed and seasoned standing rib roast. We're going to keep it in the fridge for a few days, let the flavors really soak in, and then roast it and have a delicious dinner. You can find the full version of the recipe that we've adapted from the Zuni Cafe cookbook on our website, and the link to that will be in the video description below. And you can find a bunch of other great recipes for pork and eggs and some other great foods on our website, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.